We're approaching the 15th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. There has not been another day like it, but the fear remains. A CBS News poll taken in June after the shooting rampage in Orlando found 2/3 of Americans think a terror attack is very or somewhat likely in the next few months. Author Steven Brill spent a year investigating the estimated trillion-dollar security state built since 9/11. His new cover story in The Atlantic magazine is titled, "Are We Any Safer?" The article appears in the September issue. We're pleased to welcome Steven Brill back to Studio 57.
Hey, Charlie.
Are we safer? Good morning.
Well, we're not safer. We've done a lot of things to make us safer. There are tens of thousands of men and women who wake up every morning for the last 15 years doing yeoman's work trying to keep us safer. But the kinds of threats that we faced on 9/11 have expanded and have multiplied.
What are they?
In part because we went into Iraq and,
So what are let's talk about the threats and then what we can do to make us safer.
Well, the kind of orchestrated threats that I write about are the bioterror threat, the threat of a dirty bomb where someone can go into a hospital and steal some radiological material very easily and mix it with a standard explosive and create a bomb that causes radiation contamination that will scare people and scare the country so much that we may have to evacuate, a large portion of lower Manhattan or Washington or something like that. That's the kind of orchestrated threat. And then, as we all know, there's the lone wolf who can go into a gun store uniquely in this country and buy an assault rifle and shoot up a shopping mall or a theater. And if he yells out an expression in Arabic, we assume that that's a terror attack. And it scares us much more than what sadly has become the run-of-the-mill kind of attack that happens in this country with assault weapons.
Yeah, and that's what you point out, that more people will be killed by assault weapons and gun attacks in this country than they will by terrorism. But this
right,
is
but terrorism is about fear.
Right.
And that's what makes it such a force in this country and such a force to contend with, and it makes the politics of terror so dangerous for anybody.
But Stephen, this piece is extraordinary. Number one, it's 20,000 words. So you did a lot of work on this piece. But what was fascinating to me is how you compared September 10th, 2001 to what has happened after that. You said back in September 10th, 2001, that John Ashcroft had rejected
then the
a
Attorney
request.
General had rejected a request from the FBI to increase their anti-terror budget. And FBI officials had testified in Congress that day that the biggest terrorism threat in the United States was from animal rights activists.
Like PETA.
Right. And on September 11th, you'll remember, the president was reading to school children at an elementary school in Florida, and Ashcroft was on his way to be reading to school children in Milwaukee. So that was a different time. Mm-hmm. This is now the 15 years of what I call the September 12th era. And it's been a difficult time, but we really have to take our hats off to the people who wake up every day at the Department of Homeland Security, at the TSA, who we love to ridicule and make fun of, who have been obsessed with keeping us safe. And the only time we notice them is if there's an attack or if they do something stupid.
You're very complimentary about Jay Johnson.
Yeah, I think he's done a very good job. I think that the Bush administration and the Obama administration did a really good job standing up the country. From that day, as you mentioned, on September 10th, when we were all asleep.
You've also written that this idea of never again, which makes people feel safe, is not realistic.
Right. It's a promise that Donald Trump is making. It's a promise that President Bush made right after 9/11. And on the day after, I can see why a president would want to reassure the country with that. But it's totally unrealistic. And the idea that someone can say, I'm running for president, I'm going to declare war on Islam, and the day I take office, all of this is going to stop, is just ridiculous, and it's exactly what the terrorists want a president to say.
Right.
Let me talk about a couple of things. One is that we would assume that the attempts have been made and they have been thwarted
Very much, yeah.
by national
Lots of
security.
them, yes.
Lots of them. And the second, the question comes up in terms of the future. What is it that we need to do we are not doing?
We need to deal with bioterror
Right.
threats, with dirty bomb threats.
So,
The
but
most
how do we do it is
important
my
thing
question. Is not that we
to
need
deal with a dirty bomb is actually easy. It doesn't cost anything. What that entails is the President of the United States, getting at the bully pulpit and saying, this bomb is scarier than it actually is. It's not as dangerous. It's meant to scare people.
You say the
Not
reaction to
many
that
people-
is
yeah,
the problem.
reaction is what's really bad. And the other thing we have to do is we have to accept the fact that that never again is a fantasy. We seem to be okay with accepting the fact that people can be mentally ill and do these things, but we don't accept it for terrorists.
We're in a political year. You talk about an October surprise as well.
Right. I think that is a real possibility, in part because I don't want to engage in partisan politics, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the terrorists would love to have someone like a Donald Trump be the president of the United States, because he is willing to declare war on all Muslims. And that's the way they have framed the issue since September 11th.
Because they want to have Muslims
President
rally
Bush-
behind them.
Right. And President Bush refused to take that bait, and President Obama has refused to take that bait. He campaigns on that.
Yeah, your article was very, very frightening, but I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned there. You said we spent billions of dollars, and it's not always been money well spent.
Right. A lot of
There's a
beltway
lot.
boondoggles along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, we sort of got back to business as usual.
Very interesting,
Thanks,
Steven
Steven.
Brill.
Thank you.
Always,
Thank you.
Always good to see you.